At exactly 11:23 in the morning on September 19, 1944, Private First Class Walter Kowalski was hunched inside the steel belly of an M4 Sherman tank outside Araort, France. 3 German Panzer IV tanks were advancing toward his position from roughly 800 yards away. His palms trembled despite his effort to steady them. Just 2 days earlier, the man who had occupied his spot as loader had been killed instantly when a Panzer shell ripped through the turret. Walter was not trained for this role. He was a replacement, a mechanic by trade. Before this fight, he had loaded only 4 practice rounds in his entire life. Beside him, the gunner was shouting about turret traverse speed. Above them, the commander was barking out range corrections. The driver was backing the tank into a hedgerow to gain cover. And Walter's job was brutally simple and terrifyingly urgent. Get a 75mm shell into the breech as fast as possible. He yanked the first round from the ready rack. 38 pounds of high explosive. His fingers were slick with oil and sweat. Training at Fort Knox had drilled the process endlessly. Hold the shell with the nose forward, align the brass base with the breech, slam it in, step clear. A skilled loader could do it in 4 seconds. A nervous one needed 5. Walter had watched experienced loaders work. They always faced the breech directly, but Walter was left-handed, and inside the cramped turret of a Sherman, that detail mattered more than anyone had ever admitted. When he turned to face the breech the way he'd been taught, his left elbow smashed into the gunner's shoulder. The gunner shoved him away. The shell almost slipped free. Now the commander was screaming. The Panzers were closing fast, 600 yards. Walter did something the training manuals never mentioned. He turned his back to the breech. Reaching behind himself, he felt for the opening with his left hand while gripping the shell's base with his right. His fingertips caught the rim of the breech. He guided the nose backward and shoved hard. The mechanism snapped shut. The gunner fired instantly. Recoil blasted heat and smoke backward, scorching Walter's neck. He didn't flinch. He was already grabbing the next shell. Same movement. Back turned. Left hand guiding. Right arm ramming. 3 seconds. The gun fired again. His ears rang. Cordite burned his throat. 3rd shell. Same backward motion. 2.5 seconds. 4th shell. 2 seconds flat. Then the commander's voice cut through the chaos. 4 hits, 4 kills, 6 minutes of combat. Across the field, 400 yards away, German tanks burned. Inside the turret, silence fell. Walter stood frozen, his back still turned to the breech, hands blackened with powder. The gunner stared at him. The commander climbed down from his hatch and looked at Walter like he was seeing something impossible. No one loaded a 75mm gun backward. It violated every safety rule, every training doctrine, every manual written since 1942. But it worked, and in that instant, Walter realized something the instructors at Fort Knox had never considered. What he had just done was about to change how every Sherman crew in 3rd Army fought. The M4 Sherman was never designed to duel German tanks head-on. When it was conceived in 1941, its mission was infantry. Support, breaking defenses, exploiting breakthroughs, being reliable, easy to build, and easy to repair. Between 1942 and 1945, the United States produced nearly 49,000 Shermans. They were dependable machines, but they were not built to outgun Panzers. The weakness was the cannon. The Sherman's 75mm gun could punch through about 3 inches of armor at 500 yards. That could kill a Panzer III. It struggled against a Panzer IV. And it was nearly useless against Panthers and Tigers from the front. German engineers knew this. By late 1943, every new Panzer carried frontal armor capable of stopping a Sherman round at combat range. American doctrine tried to compensate. Speed, maneuverability, numbers. 5 Shermans would outflank 1 Panzer. On paper, the math worked. In reality, 4 of those 5 crews often died before reaching position. Tankers called it the death ratio. In France, during the summer of 1944, Allied forces lost 4 or 5 Shermans for every German tank destroyed. At Villers-Bocage in June, a single Tiger wiped out 25 Allied tanks in 15 minutes. During Operation Goodwood in July, British units lost 200 Shermans in a single day south of Caen. The crews knew the odds. Burned-out Shermans lined the roads. Tankers pulled wounded men from wrecked turrets. They watched tanks explode when ammunition ignited. A direct hit to the turret almost always killed the loader first. He sat next to the ready rack holding 20 shells. When those cooked off, there was nothing left to recover. Commanders tried everything. Sandbags on the hull, spare track welded to the turret, fake markings to draw fire. None of it changed the fundamental problem. The Sherman still couldn't penetrate German armor head-on, and in tank combat, the vehicle that fired first usually won. That made speed critical. Rate of fire mattered. A crew that could load faster gained precious seconds, sometimes enough to live. Standard loading time was 4 to 5 seconds per round. German Panzer IV crews could match that. Panthers were slower, but their guns could kill from twice the distance. Tank schools drilled loaders relentlessly. Face the breach. 2 hands, straight push. Safe, repeatable, efficient, on a calm range where nobody was shooting back. But nobody considered what happened when the loader was left-handed. Walter Kowalski was one of roughly 3,000 left-handed loaders in Third Army. No one tracked that statistic. At Fort Knox, everyone was trained the same way. If you were left-handed, you learned to load right-handed. In training, it worked. In combat, it got men killed. Inside a Sherman turret, barely 7 feet across, the loader stood on the right, the gunner on the left, the commander above. The gun recoiled 18 inches when fired. The turret shifted constantly. A right-handed loader moved smoothly. A left-handed loader swung wide, collided with equipment or crew, lost seconds. Those seconds meant death. After-action reports from September 1944 showed 4th Armored Division losing tanks before loaders could fire a third round. Left-handed loaders dropped shells. Delays got crews killed. Walter discovered his solution by accident and injury. On September 17th, his tank was struck. The round glanced off but threw him into the turret wall, dislocating his right shoulder. The medic reset it and told him he was done. A loader with one good arm was useless, but the division was short on men. Sergeant Raymond Miller kept him. The next morning, German panzers emerged from the fog. Walter tried the standard method. Pain exploded through his shoulder. The shell slipped, so he turned his back. Reaching behind, he guided the shell home with his left arm alone. The gun fired. 3.5 seconds, then 3, then less. 9 rounds fired, 2 panzers destroyed, the third retreated. Miller asked one question. "How fast?" The gunner answered. 3 seconds, sometimes less. It was faster than anyone else. The method worked because it used leverage, space and instinct. Bent arms, body weight, narrow profile, natural motion. It was faster and required less effort, but it broke every rule. Miller kept quiet. Others copied it. Survival rates improved. Then Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams noticed. He asked one question. "Did it work better than the manual?" "Yes, sir." Abrams ordered it adopted immediately. Within weeks, Patton approved it across Third Army. Thousands of tanks, thousands of loaders. Kill ratios improved. Survival rose. Walter received no medal, only a promotion. He survived the war. He went home, became a mechanic again, never talked much about what he'd done. But the technique lived on. Korea, Vietnam, even into early Abrams training. Walter died in 2004. Few knew his name. But generations of tankers used what he discovered, because sometimes wars are won not by generals, but by scared mechanics who break the rules just to stay alive.